Arab countries. Syria has been kind of ancient countries. They have had many different ancient buildings and museums or some other things which is their culture, background, identity, roots. But unfortunately, because of the war, civil war, they have lost lots of things they have. And they have been, Syria has been European colonial, kind of colony for France actually, and they could be by themselves, and like around 1920s, France just left them by themselves, so they started to have their own government and life. According to UN, 200,000 people have been fled to these neighbor country, which are mostly Arab, like Iraq, Lebanon, and Jordan. They are Arab countries. Turkey is another neighbors for them, but they are not Arab. They Turk. They speak Turkish and different culture and background also. I would like to mention many of Syrian family. In 2011, actually, the war and conflict started. And that started by Bashar al-Assad is the person head of the regime in Syria. Before him, his father has been there for years, and that's a kind of dictatorship in Syria, in that country for a long time. And in 2011, kind of protest started by people in the streets, in the cities. They asked for freedom, for their rights and democracy, which they've been missing. And most of those conflict and war started when the regime arrested, I think 15 or 16 kids, school kids, because they brought up some comments on the wall. They wrote on the wall some of the comments anti-Assad's regime. So I believe the regime could not tolerate that. So they did, and they've been tortured. And that's why people went into the streets more and started to ask for more democracy and freedom. Demographic of population in Syria is very that's a diverse population. They have a diverse population. Most and highest race, or we can say what is it?
Group.
I forget some. Anyways, mostly they are Arab in Syria. And then Armenians, Assyrians, Greeks, Kurds, Turkmens, many different races in Syria, in that country. And if you notice, also their their religion is very different, which Islam is the common religion there in Syria. That's the common religion. Which, like Sunni and Shia, is a branch of Islam, but mostly in Syria they are Sunni. But there are some different, there are groups of Christian and some other religion, and not that much. The common and more population, they have Islam are Sunni. And mostly they are Arabs, Kurds, and all those. And then the culture. Culture is the root of the background, their roots, what they believe, their lives, their system of their life and everything. So, in Syrian culture, mostly families, they would like to have high number of children, more children. To have more children, they feel more blessed. They believe that they are more blessed. And they have a kind of social life. Actually, like before, when these families, they were in their own country, they don't close their home, the door. They, if it is house or apartment, they don't leave it closed. They leave it open. Neighbors come and see each other, talk together. They just come and go, share the food, share the ingredients of food, how they can cook. They talk together, and that's the life. So much socializing, and mostly when they see each other, they ask each other about their health. How is everything with your body, with your, how you feel, something like that. So it is important for them. Usually, that's a kind of the culture. They shake each other's hands. Shaking hand is for greeting. Shaking hands, kissing both cheeks, and hug, which is for same gender, like man and man. They don't do such a thing like between boyfriend, girlfriend, or husband, wife in the streets, because of in the public, because of the beliefs and rules. Meal is one of the food and sweets specifically is very important for these families. They get together for if they are celebrating, if they are sad, if they are happy. Food brings people together. I believe that is for most of the societies. One of the most important part of the Syrian family is the big celebration is Al-Fitr, Eid al-Fitr. There is a month of Ramadan. It doesn't stay in 1 month, like every year. It's not every year, for example, in summer, or every year in winter. It changes every year. The Ramadan is a month of spirituality and renewal of like brain or heart or everything for these people. 30 days is 1 month of fasting. People have fast during Ramadan for 30 days. They don't eat or drink, nothing from sunrise to sunset. Nothing. They try to be quiet during the month of Ramadan. They try to don't raise their voice when they talk. They try to respect each other.
We're giving you a mic.
They don't smoke.
Ignore that for a second. Okay, try that.
They don't smoke, they don't drink.
They don't smoke, they don't drink during Ramadan. They try to be polite to each other. And thank you. I don't want to give headache to people.
It's okay. We just need to go ahead. Keep going.
All right. So for 30 days, people don't eat, they don't smoke, they don't drink from sunrise to sunset. They don't talk behind of anybody during the month of Ramadan. That's very important to them. And also children, like for children they are not allowed to be fasting. They don't fast, especially in a specific age, like I believe 12 years old or 13 years old. They are not allowed. Even teenagers, if they want to, or parents allow that, they fast. They are fasting, but not like they are. It's not mandatory for them. Pregnant women, as yes, they don't. They are not allowed to fast. They eat the meal in the evening, like after the sunset, and in the evening they get together. That's the important part for them. They make a good meal, sweets, dessert, nice things. They sit together. They offer the food first to their children, and then they start with a small prayer, and then they start to eat.
Is that by the clock or is that by the sunset? Because if you have Ramadan in the Arctic, you're going to be hungry. So if you're in northern Saskatchewan, you're going to be very hungry.
Yes, well, if it is in winter, it's very easy.
Oh, that's easy in winter, yeah.
Yes, because days are shorter.
Yeah.
In summer, it is a little bit difficult for them.
Yeah.
I believe at the moment is kind of in summer, because we had some training for children, for youth, 2 years ago, and I remember that was in August.
Oh my.
And some of the workers, when they were working with me, they were fasting, and we had to provide food for the crowd, but we had a very respectful way. We had packed food, lunches for those people that they were fasting, and we provided them. So they took it for the iftar. They call the meal iftar when they start to eat in the evening. So that's the kind of festivity actually for families. For education system, there are some more about the culture. If you have any question, please feel free to ask, or I can remember and mention that. Education system in Syria is kind of compulsory. They used to have Ministry of Education. They provide the curriculum, and school divisions are in 3 stages: primary, middle education, and secondary education. Education is very important to Syrian people. They want their children to be successful when they come here to Canada and start their education. They have been missing attending school for these couple of years. So children could not attend any school, even when they moved to their neighboring country, because in those countries there is not mostly human rights for their own citizens. So those people, Syrian families, when they moved there, they could not send their children to school. Children didn't attend school in those neighboring countries. There was not employment, there was not health care, adequate food or anything for this population. Families used to live maybe more than a year and a half or 2 years in a tent as a camp, the refugee camp in those Arab countries, and they did not have clean water, enough food or health care. It's very, very little, maybe just to survive. So as you see, 3.2 million registered Syrian refugees are living in neighboring countries at the moment. some of them, I believe, Canadian government, they bring people from those neighboring countries more than like other places. And when they are in those neighboring countries, because Mediterranean Sea is close to Syria and other those countries in their neighborhood. So they've been trying, as you have seen in the news or TV or media, they try to travel through the sea to reach to the Greece and other countries in Europe, which they have lost many loved ones. Many loved ones are missing, and also it has been very challenging until they got to one of those European countries. And as you see there, people who survived, they have gone through lots of difficulties and challenges, and that actually provided them kind of strong coping skills. Experience from the war, violence, all those children and adults, they have been witness of torture, violence, or they have been victim of. Lack of food, water, shelter. They have been tortured, forced labor in those neighboring countries. They had to, like, kids have been forced to work and earn very little money to use it to survive. Lack of medical care, loss of loved ones, and disruption in or lack of access to schooling for long time. School age, because like most of 50% of the population of Syria is children. They are children and youth. So they are the school age. In the school age, and as we have mentioned here, 6.5 million children have been affected by the crisis. More than half of Syrian children are no longer attending at school. As we mentioned that before. These children, specifically girls, when they went by chance or attended in the school in those neighboring countries, they have been bullied. They have seen violence and extreme prejudice in those countries. Children and the impact of war against Syrian children have lost loved ones, suffered if they have been in the camp, or because they walked on their foot to get to those European countries with the parents, or some of them have lost their parents, caregiver, or some other family relative they've been taking care of them. Mostly men are head of the family. And Syrian families used to live with grandparents also, and they respect them so much, and they are like elderly would be head of the family when they live together. After this crisis, they have lost some of those people in their family, like maybe grandparents or men that they have been head of the family. As a result, some other relative joined them and taking care of the family as a head of the family, kind of. And it has been provided, like, as a result, there have been some confusion for children too, because the person have been changed, like this system in their life, everything, when you see somebody else want to take care of you as a head of the family. So that has been impacted kids so much. One of the things that we are facing is the PTSD in regard to children and people that they have been witness of violence or victim of violence. People with post-traumatic stress disorder may feel overwhelmed and could have nightmares, difficulty sleeping or eating, and specifically students, they cannot concentrate. Sometimes they disrupted with different thoughts when even they are writing or they are studying or reading. That's a kind of impact more for the children and children. They lost people that they have had a very good connection with. And that would be one of the things, because still they could not have mourning for the loved ones that they have lost. And even missing people, they are not sure if they died or they are still alive somewhere. That's uncertain. It has been difficult for them. The journey that brings individual Syrian families to safety may differ greatly, but can often be traumatic. It can take a tremendous effort just to survive, and family members may get separated or going missing. It has been happening in many different cases. So that's another thing, because when people move to their new home, new country, they are going to face with other different challenges, because resettling is a big journey, is a long process itself, and we need to make sure that we understand. So adapting to a new culture, learning new language, new system, because every system is new to newcomers. Education system, banking, housing, healthcare is very different in different countries. So that would be very new, and they are not familiar with these systems.
Like the forms that they had earlier.
Yes, you have received the form with different language. You could feel frustration, how they can even express their feeling. Even, for example, people get sick, they want to see a healthcare provider or family physician. That's very difficult to express their pain, how even they can explain that. So that would be good if we have some of the people with the Arabic language to help them from their own family even. And mostly, like as I said, education is very important in Syrian culture. As they did their best when they were in their own country, they got some education. And some of them can speak English, they understand, they can communicate, and that's a good thing. So they can help other ones. And many families, they are coming with a very educated background and good employment. And they come here, that's not kind of realistic for them, because they think they are going to have the same job, the same, so they will learn little by little, because when we ask them, they say they want to be safe, they want their children to be safe, healthy and happy, and I believe they want want to do their best to see this result. So these are the resettlement challenges. As we were talking about, culture shock, new culture, it's very big challenge for everyone. Language barrier. We know that if we cannot communicate, we cannot express our emotion, feeling, or pain. So acculturation stress also, because there is some disagreement sometimes comes up because the children and youth, they want to they learn fast. They want to adapt the Canadian culture or new culture very fast. They want to be fit in the school with mainstream kids, and have friends, have friendship, and learn more and more. And sometimes families, they want to stick with their own culture, which is good. And there will be, there should be some moderation, and they will learn little by little. Some of the families are like, they change fast, they learn very fast. They keep their good things, and they start to learn good things from the host society. Also, sometimes children, because parents are the authority in the family structure in Syria, but they come here, children learn English fast, and they use they do the interpretation, for example, for them. They take the lead in the family, and that's against their culture, but sometimes people don't care because they want to learn more, they want to pass day by day to see if they go to the doctor, if they want to do shopping, so they compromise kids and parents. And also isolation, because sometimes with Syrian families, there are some mistrust, because there are, as we mentioned, they are from different ethnicity, different religion. So they don't trust easily, even after all those difficulties they have gone through. Trust and building trust is not going to be easy, but it will happen eventually. Difficulty for concentrating, or tiredness, lack of sleep, or all those events that they have been through brings trauma. That's the experience of trauma, that's the experience of war and what has happened to people. That's a result. This PowerPoint actually is mostly for schools, because our job is working with school divisions. We provided this based on schools needs to know. But I believe that is good for every organization to know when we are going to have these people, newcomers in our communities and cities. Police officers in the school can trigger fear again for kids, or fire drills, dark hallways, unfamiliar celebration like Halloween with masks and something like that. We have kind of orientation for newcomers in previous weeks, and we were in the school, we were providing information session for them, and that's kind of our job we do for the families with the school kids. We talk about the school system, something like that, or registration. Of course, through interpreters we do that. There was some bells ringing in the school, and the noise was not kind of relaxing, it was like more like kind of sharp. We could see that children were looking at each other, they were waiting for maybe something is happening, and then we try to say, no, that's a bell is ringing, it's a school, for different classes it happens, and we started to explain the system for them. So how can we support? There are lists of, like to mention, how we can support these families, especially children, because children and youth are the future of each society. And they need to be healthy, they need to be happy, they need to be educated. So our focus is more on children and kids. So we need to provide them information about bus routes, how they can, because we don't want to baby them also, we want to empower these families, these people. They need to be independent finally. They need to learn. So we show them, maybe we provide transportation for a while, but they need to learn how they can go from this part of the city to another part of the city. So we provide that information for them. We kind of provide information orientation about every system that we have. And that's what we do in settlement part. We provide information about healthcare, because healthcare is totally different in other countries. For example, in many countries, people directly go and see a specialist. In Canada, people cannot do that. They need to go to family physician first, they get referral, they be referred, and then they continue on. In some countries, not like that. In banking also is different. Housing, how they can buy houses, how they can rent, like rental process is a big process in Canada. In other countries, it's not like that. Also, we ask all these, our co-workers, or school event, when they have kind of event, they need to provide information before, prior to the event. So people would know what is going to happen, who is going to attend in those events. So this is very important, because we don't want to just surprise families and newcomers. It's going to be shocking sometimes for them because of their past experiences. Of course, because of the English language, we can use Pictionary and using pictures or body language. Sometimes we need to make sure our body language doesn't express something wrong or offending people. We need to make sure. For example, men and women, they don't shake hands. That's one of the things we can mention. Or making eye contact is not respectful in Arab culture. They think that's disrespectful and they make eye contact. That's a kind of thing we should know. So using inclusive language would be great, because at the moment, some of the families adopted other kids, or they are kind of caregiver to them. They need to know, like also we need to know, that we make sure we respect caregivers if they are parents, biological parents, or they are not, because that would be helpful for the kids if they see that there is not enough respect for the caregivers or something like that. Displaying books and resources in Arabic language, especially for Syrian families, but we always ask the school or public libraries to have different different languages, so people would know, they can enjoy, they see, like in many schools, when we enter the school, we see different flags, we see different comments, welcoming in different languages. That is very welcoming environment. For example, I was in one of the schools myself, that was 3 or 4 years ago. That was recess time and winter time. They used to play some sing signs, some music from different countries. And suddenly I was talking to some of the teachers, and suddenly I heard one of my own music from back home. I thought, oh my goodness, that's so heartwarming, and it makes me so happy. Although I have been out of the country when I was so young, so many years, still that feelings come back, you know. That's important. So that's inclusiveness. Respecting different cultures, and to be aware of our own biases. That's important to make sure, because sometimes it's not intentional, but we need to make sure, we need to see what is not good in another culture and what is respectful. So that's our Canada. We love Canada. So Canada, in the history, it has been very welcoming, more than any other countries. Loving other people, helping them, assist them, and they bring them as a refugee from war and other situations in humanitarian, which has been very important for Canadian. That's a kind of prejudice? No, but it's a good, very good thing. What we do when refugees come or arrive to our cities as a settlement, we meet with the families at the airport. We already we received actually some information that we are going to receive this kind of families with this number. Also, I would like to mention that these newcomers go through many different screening before they come in. If there is some illnesses or if there is some other things, they have been going through the screen very, very seriously. And then when they arrive in a kind of Ontario or British Columbia, mostly they arrive in Ontario right now, they are going to be checked again because of the health. So if there is something or illnesses or disease that they can recognize in the airport, they go to quarantine. They go to all those systems to make sure what is wrong and how it's going to work for the family. But anyways, after all those things, when they are sure and everything is fine, people arrive to Canada, to the airport. We meet with them as a settlement workers. We transport them to temporary accommodation and then provide them food. We do kind of orientation in the apartment, in the temporary accommodation, which would be apartment, or at the moment people are in the hotel because of the chaos. Still, we do that orientation in the hotel, how we use the stove, how we use the washroom machine, something like that, the hot water, cold water, something like that. And also, and after that, before, actually, that's the plan that we look for the permanent accommodation for them. And then when they come, all these steps will be done. Then we register them for family physicians for the healthcare, and registering kids at school and referring families, adults to language and employment programs. So they need to pass the assessment to see how much they know or how is the language level, and then they start to learn English. They start to look for work and employment. And most of them, like all of them, have kind of different working background.
What's the time frame for that usually? How soon do they start looking for a job after they arrive, approximately?
It depends on their experience, work experience, and also English language
Right.
level. That's a very important stage. And if there are, like there is English, like enough English language or work experience, still we do some orientation. For example, for working in food, like restaurant, something like that, they need to learn about food safe handling, something like that. Or if they work in a factory, they need to learn. So those orientation and those classes are very important to learn.
But there's no restriction as far as X number of months?
No,
Okay, good.
there is none at all.
About handling pork, because they are not allowed to eat pork. Are they allowed to handle pork as well?
It depends on the individual. Sometimes, yes, if they want to work, they don't mind. It depends on individual. We can ask them. It doesn't hurt if we always ask people,
Yeah.
are you okay with that? And explain them what is happening with the details. So they have choice. They can choose. And also, we go with them for shopping to show them how they can learn, like how they can do the shopping, which store have the more ingredient that they need or something like that.
Can you explain to us, Miriam, about the halal
Yes,
for their food?
for sure. Like for alcohol, they don't touch it. Islam, Muslim people, they don't touch alcohol, any kind of alcohol, wine, beer, or any other kind. For the meat, Syrian families actually, they eat lots of vegetables, grains, and dairy products like yogurt, milk, something like that. They use a lot. And for meat, some of the families, if they are not vegetarian, they use lamb most of the time and chicken. So that's the kind of, but they don't eat pork for sure.
Would the people, would they insist on halal, or they,
Most of them.
yeah?
Most of them. But some maybe very rare, they don't mind, but most of them they.
What does halal mean?
Halal means they slap the animal with the prey. When they kill chicken or lamb or sheep or something or cow, something like that, they do pray, they do something specific, then they kill them. So that's halal. That's a halal meat to Muslim people.
The Jewish comparison to that would be kosher,
Yes,
which is
exactly.
all taken from
Yes,
the Old Testament.
yes. That's for sure.
What about dynamics between husband and wife? Like, is it safe to say that the husband always has the last word because of him being the head of the family, or how is the treatment? Before there were issues of also domestic violence and disciplining of children.
Yes, yes.
Those are issues with newcomers, especially for specific newcomers from certain areas. And
Yes.
the ones from Syria.
They discipline their kids, like they are serious in that part. They want, that's their culture, as sometimes it happens. But when they come here, we provide them those orientation. We talk about that and we say, that's no, we can't.
So if we're helping them fill out a form for the husband and the wife, would we be able to speak directly to the wife and ask her questions and she can answer them, or will he speak
For
for her?
Yes, because we want they learn also. Because here things are different. We need to make sure they understand and they learn when they arrive that men and women equally get treated here. We respect everybody. That's the thing. It is good. Even we mentioned before we were talking together, we said when man and woman they are sitting, sometimes we have interpreter. We ask them talk to each. Look at each person when you talk to them and interpreting. So they would know both parents are respect everybody.
And it's also grateful to empower the women and
Yes.
to tell the men that there's equality between men and women here. We had experience like this, and you can say that you can tell that the man was really, authoritative and all of that. The wife was just like this, and from a series of conversations with them, one time the woman came and demanded from us that we send her to the bank so she could open her own bank account.
No.
Because everything was, although they are a joint bank account with the husband, but he gets all of the cards, right? She did not have access to her money. Not that she had money, but she just wanted, she realized she could open her own bank account.
Yes, that happens.
So your orientation, you orientate every family, for instance, when the families come into Saskatchewan,
Yes.
will you do orientation for every family that enters Saskatchewan?
We do. Usually we invite people from different organizations. For example, we invite people from social services. They talk to families and they say hitting and beating has different results in here. We don't tolerate that. There are many different ways people can work together among the family. There is not always discipline in that. So yes, we invite people from organization to meet with the family, talk to them about the system here, and they will know.
And that's a bit different. She's talking mostly about government-sponsored groups. When we sponsor groups, then we do provide, in our case, through the MCC, I think the United Church will bring some. So that training doesn't happen through the government, it happens through our constituent groups.
But will we have access
We should
to
have
a
access.
settlement worker like you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Settlement
Yes.
worker?
You should have anyways.
Schools are available?
Yes.
Present. We have 2 settlement workers in schools here in Swift Current and in the area. So
We can hear her, no problem.
I go to All Saints, Ecole Centennial, and high school here. My coworker Lisa handles all the other schools in the city, and then we divide all the rural schools too. So if there's, I believe there are children in the 2 families that are coming. So
Their group chose a big family.
So definitely I will be able to get in touch with a high school student. Mrs. Martin is already aware. Mrs. Martin is a counselor at the COM. She's already aware that there is a 17-year-old coming into the school. I'm not sure about the other children, where they are going, like if they're going to a Chinook school or if they're going to All Saints Catholic School. But wherever they may be, we'll be able to work with them as long as we have a referral form from you.
As you know, here, the school will depend on where the
The
children,
houses, yeah.
Except for the high school.
I guess why I'm asking, it's important that we know contact information.
Oh yeah.
We coordinate.
Definitely.
And we're
So
not
the
all over the
schools,
place.
the schools are already aware of our program, so they have a referral form. Also the Welcome Center, we are based at the Welcome Center, so any referrals, actually, we will appreciate it if, when the families come here, if you bring them to the welcome center first and introduce us to them, and then we can handle explaining the Swiss program, how the settlement services work. And, here at the city, we can do all of the orientation and information sharing with them. Very helpful.
And in our case, we'll have an education person specifically tasked with that job. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Mabel. Denise, is it?
Yes.
Thank you. There you go. There's our, I don't know if you guys have that.
We will also have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
position like that.
So there's an actual person that's their department, so.
And please keep in mind, because they are tired when they are.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They are shocked. They don't remember later on what we told them. So
Yeah, that's right.
they're repeating for a couple of months until they get adapted.
How long typically, when a family arrives, do they wait before they start sending their children to school? Do they typically wait a little bit to sort of get settled, or do they want to start right away?
One thing, we need to have their permanent accommodation address, so they choose the nearest school in their zone. So that they leave.
But also, it depends on the family. Some families, when they get here, they want their children immediately in the school the day after, right? But some families want their children to just have that weekend or have that, some days rest first and then go to the school. So as settlement workers in school, we meet with the family and ask them, when do you want your children to be registered? What we do is we ask the schools, can we provide a tour of the school for the families first, so that they'll have an idea what the school looks like, where the classroom is, where the water fountain is, or where the washrooms are. So we make an appointment with the school. We go to the school with the family. We have that orientation with the school, and then get the tour, and then ask the family, okay, when do you want the children to be to come to school? And then we also, help them with the school bus registration, and so that's taken care of too.
Also, we do referral. Sorry, go ahead.
The first stage is very important because we had experience where a newcomer came with several children, and the school thought that they were ready, and we were not able to do the tour with them. We approached them if we could do the tour and all of that, but that was not done, and we had problems with one of the kids because now this is developed like mistrust with the school because some cultural in their country, you go around the school with your backpack. So he's always wearing his backpack moving around, and the principal was like, why are you wearing your backpack? You just leave it there. So there's created a mistrust between them. So it's very important, the first meeting with the school, with the community, with your group even, right? So,
Also, some of the families, they are so protected right now, thinking of their children because of all those difficulties. They are so protected. We need to understand that until they feel trust, they build the trust from us.
Can I ask a question about counseling for the kids or for the family, especially if it's post-traumatic stress? Does the government provide some of that? Like we have somebody in our church who's a trained counselor in that, and she says she is willing to volunteer her services. But what's the process of?
Yes, that's a very good question. Especially like I'm not sure about Syrian culture, but in some countries there is not mental health or such things. They don't have it. They feel those somatic pains. They feel stomach-ache, migraine, headache, nausea, something like that. But they don't know what is this. That's the physical pain and something like that. That would be good if before you refer them, make them to understand what is happening. And we have mental health here, and like we check our tools, we go to dentist, we go to family physician, we take care of mental health too. So our children can be more successful if they don't have those anxiety. So we are working on it. So that's kind of explaining to them what is happening, and I would suggest little bit we can wait and then we start to introduce this kind of services.
And then they arrive as permanent residents.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a landed immigrant. So they would have SIM card, SIM number, health card. Yes.
Right away.
So they would have access to the healthcare
Okay.
system.
And some welfare, including welfare, by the way, but the first year, we're sort of welfare, and then,
This morning, we had a presentation with the mental health and addictions team.
Okay.
So they received the same training as you have seen, and so they're aware also and are preparing for our families.
Okay.
very good.
They want
One, like, not one, but more of a, like, if we were the only Filipino family here, and all of us would be talking to us every day, oh, how's the weather, and can you imagine the Syrian families would be the first Syrian refugee families here? And if everyone in the community would be, for lack of a better word, ganging up on them, or no more problem, that would be so daunting as well. And,
Yeah,
there's some
Hi,
people
how are
who would
you?
love that one, not them. But who knows?
Yeah, it's like coming to church, anyway.
eventually they would love it.
Yeah.
Because they see lots of kids.
Yes, that's fair. And one more, and the most important thing is the community as well. Like
Yeah.
we know from our perspective, like we understand that they're coming here and the services we need to provide with the rest of the community. So it takes, for all of us to inform the rest of the community about them.
Yeah.
Right? That would be from all of us who are here right now.
But the schools are a huge part of,
Yes.
of the process, and that's so important to make sure the schools are,
Yes.
because I mean, they're spending, 6-7 hours a day there, and that's where they're gonna, and that's where they're gonna run into, the initial problems for sure, or else the problems are gonna surface there, one of the two.
And the Chinook School Division is preparing for
Yeah. Very good.
develop some materials about Syrian
Nice.
culture as well.
Nice.
The family that we're applying for right now has 2 children. One's about just over 1 year, and the other one is just turned 5. So their 5-year-old would be going to kindergarten, yeah. And the other one.
putting them into the pre-K. Actually, with the younger kids, I have experienced that it's not as difficult for them to adjust to a new country, to a new classroom, a new setting, just because there are other kids who are also learning other things, right? New things. So they are learning at the same stage, learning at the same level. What's this color? This is red. What's this? Shaking hands, saying hi, hello, hi. They're the same. But it's the older ones that we should look for, for more. Especially middle school age children, they have that imbalance there already. With the high school ones, I'm not sure, but I feel that the 17-year-old will be already mature enough to understand that this is for the better, better future for them. So with the middle school age children, that's, we should take care more of them. Yeah.
It is always healthy to make sure youth and children, they are involved with different activities.
Yeah.
In the city, they love soccer, they call it football.
Yes.
Crazy. Anyways, let's wrap it up, and you guys can, you have more time for individual conversations? You have more time, or do you have to go, or that's okay, so we can hang out and ask private questions? But again, thank you very much for the spur of the moment coming, and thank you very much, Miriam, for your presentation.